make room for God. I 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 make room for God. Clearing out a space so God can move through me. Clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room. I make room for God. For God. Oh, I make room for God. Oh, I make room for God. 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 Oh, I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me. Clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room. I make room for God. For God. Oh, I make room. Na na na. Na 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 na. I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me. I'm clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me. Oh, I make room. For God. For God. I make room for God so God can speak through me. I make room. I make room. Room for God so God can move through me. I make room for God. Make room for God so God can move through me. And it's in my surrender that I found power. Yes, it's in my surrender that I am made stronger. I make room. I make room for God so God can move. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. I make room for you. I make room for you. Room for you. I make room for God. 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 so God can move through me, clearing out a space so God can speak through me, clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room, I make room for God, for God. Oh, I make room for God. Oh, I make room for God. 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 Oh, I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me, clearing out a space so God can speak through me, clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room, I make room for God, for God. Oh, I make room. Na na na. Da 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 da. I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me. I'm clearing out a space so God can speak through me, clearing out a space so God can love through me. Oh, I make room for God, for God. I make room for God so God can speak through me. I make room, I make room for God so God can move through me. I make room for God, make room for for God. I make room for God. So God can speak through me. I make room. I make room for God. So God can breathe through me. I make room for God. Make room for God. So God can breathe through me. And it's in my surrender that I found power. Yes, it's in my surrender that I am made it stronger. I make room. I make room for God. So God can breathe. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. I make room for you. I make room for you. Room for you. I make room for God. 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 Clearing out a space so God can move through me. Clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room. I make room for God. For God. Oh, I make room for God. Oh, I make room for God. 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 Oh, I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me. Clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me. I make room. I make room for God. For God. Oh, I make room. Na na na. Na na na. I'm clearing out a space so God can move through me. I'm clearing out a space so God can speak through me. Clearing out a space so God can love through me.
Hello, hello, beautiful people. Happy Sunday morning. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you as we celebrate the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God flowing in, through, and as us. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer, and we will ground ourselves today with a reading from the Daily Word. So I invite you, you can close your eyes in this moment. The word today is together, and the affirmation, the presence of God unites us as we work, play, and pray together. Joining with others to work makes the job easier. Joining together for fun multiplies the enjoyment. The camaraderie, cooperation, and support of togetherness give me a boost and brighten my mood. The indwelling Christ presence is alive in all people everywhere. When I work, play, or pray with others, something greater than the sum of our individual efforts and insights results. The divine love that binds us multiplies as we recognize it in one another and give it fuller expression in our lives, in ourselves, Work becomes more productive, play more enjoyable, and prayer more fulfilling. Together, we produce more good work and feel more joy and happiness than any of us could accomplish on our own. In the scripture, for where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Matthew 18:20. The presence of God unites us as we work, play, and pray together. We do this, of course, through our weekend service. We do this, of course, through the music, the meditation, the message, and we're so grateful to be here with all of you. I apologize. It looks like we were muted, so you all missed the prayer. But all is well. we have spoken the word in faith, and of course, we are all will be the beneficiaries of that word, of that truth. Wonderfully, all good. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's so good to be here with all of you. as we gather together here to experience the good that is the weekend service of CSC. To our first time guests, we say hello, we say welcome, and we're so happy that you chose to join us today. We're so happy that you chose to be with us here today, and we're confident that something will be done, something will be said that will support you in living an empowered life, that will support you in being empowered, that will support you in thriving this week. And as a first-time guest, we'd love to stay in touch with you. And so what you see here on your screen is how you access the digital connection card. Just text welcome to this number, 347-472-1078. And you'll receive a link. That link takes you to the digital connection card. Click the link, complete the information. The most important piece of information is your email address. If you don't supply any other info, it's all good. But we do need your email address in order to put you on the mailing list. And you'll receive our weekly correspondence that goes out every Friday, and any other information that's needed that we share with the community. You'll receive that via email. But again, most importantly, we're happy that you're here, and we're excited about what you will receive. We're excited about the ways in which you will see yourself differently. And as you see yourself differently, your life will begin to reflect that new concept, that new reality. So sit back, relax, and receive. And so with that, I think this is a wonderful time to get into our news and updates so that we can continue forward with the music, the meditation, and the message. I'm sorry, I was laughing. I'm looking at the comments. Roy, I see your comments. Like, you look like you were going in too. That's so funny.
Well, tune in on Wednesday, because PG will be praying. If you want to get your makeup prayer, tune in on Wednesday.
This is true. This is true. All right, beautiful. Well, let's get into our news and updates. Every Wednesday morning, as PY just reminded us, we have the Momentum Prayer Call. We gather together at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. This is your opportunity to continue the momentum that we create on Sundays, and it's also a way for you to start the momentum intentionally for your day in the middle of the week. So you see the info here. Call the number, enter the access code, and wait. But we also know that you may not be able to make it at that time, and so the playback number is there. You can always access the most recent prayer by using that playback number. If you want to tap into the vibration of prayer later on today or any other time throughout the week, you can always use that number and align your heart and your mind with the truth through affirmative prayer. But again, we encourage you all to be there live. We encourage you to put this information in your phone, put it in your calendar so that you have easy access to it. And of course, if you're on our mailing list, then you have this information as well. So you can always go to your inbox and grab that info from any email from CSC that goes out on Fridays. If you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to Prayer Champions at celebrationsc.org. That request is received by our prayer champions. It's received by PY and myself. We are always holding the entire CSC community in our hearts and in our minds, knowing the very best and only the best for you, seeing the very best with and for you. But we recognize that there may be something going on that you have a specific prayer request around. We also recognize that there may be people in your life, loved ones, friends, coworkers, colleagues, that you would like for us to stand with you in knowing the truth for them. And we're happy to do that. Just send that information to Prayer Champions at celebrationsc.org, and we will hold them in prayer. We also encourage you that as your prayer is answered, as you experience the shift, to also email us and let us know the good that's happened in your life. We're confident that prayer works, and it's always wonderful to hear how prayer is working in, through, and as your life. Every third Sunday is God Talk Sunday. That means next Sunday, October 15th, is God Talk Sunday. What is the God Talk? The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. we recognize that on this path you will have many questions, because on this path there's a lot of unlearning that takes place, particularly if you're new to metaphysics or fairly new to new thought. And of course, in the context of a service, during a sermon or during a meditation, that's not the time to stop and ask questions. And so we have a forum for that. You may hear PY say something, you may hear me say something, you may hear something in a song, whatever it may be, or you may have read something in a New Thought text or a metaphysical text, and you want to further understand it, you want to apply it to your life. This is the forum. Also, for those that have been on this path for quite a long time, we know that questions still come up. You hit roadblocks, or you want to better understand something, or you want to better apply a principle to your life. And so the God Talk is a wonderful time to ask those questions and deepen your understanding and deepen your awareness. You have to be in the space in order to ask the question. And so this happens in a Zoom meeting. That link is shared with everyone on our mailing list. It's in the Friday email. So to our first-time guests, you'll see the information again on how to join our mailing list. But once you're on the mailing list, look to that email on Fridays, and you will see the Zoom link and password to access the God Talk. We look forward to sharing with you all. Put this in your calendar as well, and invite a friend. Invite someone to join us, because it is always an enlightening and enlivening time. The series we're highlighting this month takes us back to October 2015, Superstition Ain't the Way. Of course, as we are in spooky season and it's October, this is a wonderful series to revisit, starting with the first sermon, Whose Devil Is It Anyway? I take great care and offer lots of information, some things you may have never heard or been exposed to before, around the origins of this thing called Satan and Lucifer and the devil, and the superstitions that are associated with it. And we go on from there, because belief in the devil isn't the only superstition that people have. But most importantly, as Stevie Wonder so profoundly wrote, when you believe in things you don't understand, you suffer. And so we hold many superstitions in our minds that are causing us to suffer. And this series will support you in identifying and then releasing those superstitions. As a free gift to go along with our sermon series this month, the sermon series Making Room for God, I'm offering a free download to all of you of one of the songs from my album, One With You. And of course, the song is I Make Room. You've heard it in the opening countdown. We'll be using it all month. You can just scan that QR code with your phone, and it will take you to the link. If for some reason you're not able to use the QR code, of course, you can email us. The link is in this past Friday's email, so there's a direct download link if for some reason you're unable to use the QR code. And we'll keep that link in the emails that go out this month, so you'll definitely have more than one way to access it. As always, we encourage you to share, like, comment, and subscribe. We are available on all of the social channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And we encourage you to share this link that you're watching right now, the stream. Share it with someone, or post it to your Facebook page, or tweet it out, or whichever platforms you happen to use. Again, we also encourage you to comment and like the post, which of course is supportive to us as we continue to spread this good thing called CSC, and let more people know about what we're about. And that concludes our news and updates for today, which means we have the awesome opportunity to go within as we're led in the meditation experience with Pastor Yolanda.
Yes, it is meditation time. It is time to experience the God within ourselves for ourselves. And we say experience because we do more than just read, just study. Those things are important. But you can read and have memorized all of the sacred text, but if you don't have a very personalized, individualized relationship with the divine, it is just information, and we want you to have the information. And we want you to integrate the experience of God for yourself. We want you to feel God alive within you. And as we are affirming this month, I make room for God, we have to clear out the space to receive that connection, to experience that connection. Many times our thoughts cloud our ability to hear the divine inspiration, to hear ourselves being loving and gentle and kind with ourselves, because the voice of criticism and doubt and worry and fear is so loud that we don't even think God is there. But God is right where you are, always available to you. You just have to make room for God. You just have to clear out the space of the worry, the doubt, the fear, the next moment. You wonder, well, how can I do that, PY? I don't know how. It's very simple. You take the breath, you bring yourself to a place of centeredness in the present, and you just drop deeper and deeper into the breath and into the moment and allow yourself to open and expand. We learn how to open and receive so that we can make room for God. It's not just that we can receive things on the outside world. It is to receive that connection, to receive that inspiration, to receive that knowing that no matter where I am, God is there. God is there. Not off just for someone else, something you have to pray to outside of you. It is there within you. So make room for it. Make room for love. Make room for peace. And make room for God. So let's do that right now. Let's experience our God for ourselves. I can't tell you what God feels like within you. I know what it feels like within me. And I want you to have that experience for yourself. Your God, your unconditional loving presence, your knowing, your truth. Let's make room for God. To begin, go ahead and get yourself in a comfortable posture. Seated upright, feet flat on the floor, on a chair, on your sofa, shoulders over hips so you're not leaning too far forward or too far back. You're just seated nicely with each vertebra learning to remain where it was originally designed to be, stacking on top of each other. Nice long line of energy all the way from the soles of the feet up through the crown of the head. Plant the palms on the tops of the thighs. And since you are in a place of safety, close your eyelids and let's take this journey inward. Inward to the home. Inward to the altar of the heart. Inward to that internal knowing that guides us. And as we just notice the breath, we start to quiet the mind a little, or put it in its proper perspective, to use it as we choose. We're taking our focus to the breath, and just breathe. And whether the breath appears to be deep or appears to be shallow, we make no judgments of the breath. We are grateful that there is breath. That the same breath I breathe is the same breath that you have the opportunity to breathe. The same God that is available right here on my breath is the same God that is available right where you breathe. And we are grateful for it. Beautiful everyone. Now let's take conscious control of the breath. Sometimes we are so in our thoughts that we forget to breathe, that we forget to take control of the breath and send it deep into the belly. To elongate the breath so that it signals the mind it can relax and the body follows. Let's just notice and take that breath and our intention into the low belly together. And inhale for a count of 4. Inhale. Expand the low belly. Hold it there. And open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out, releasing the breath. and noticing the silence at the end. In through the low belly, expanding, finding more places for the breath. And hold. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, and sigh it out. Whatever you need to make room for, release that fear, doubt, and worry. And notice the silence at the end. In through the low belly, now up through the rib cage. Let's expand and send that breath into the sides of the body. Maybe you didn't realize how big the lungs are. We make room for the lungs to expand. Hold it. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out. And notice. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the sides, the front, and the back. Finding more places, sending that breath into the back. Making contact with the love that holds and supports us. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out. And there is silence. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the way we just did, and now sending that breath up to the altar of the divine, that heart chakra, center of the chest. Hold there. And open the mouth, relax the jaw, and without collapsing the body, sigh it out. Again, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding to the heart. Hold it. And open the mouth, sigh it out. And that navel draws in towards the spine without collapsing the body. And notice the silence. Let's practice a few rounds of very deep, full breath in and all the way up to the heart. And when you're ready, this time close the lips and exhale through the nose, slowing it down even more. Count of 6. And silence at the end. Let's practice a few rounds in and all the way up to the altar. Closing the lips, exhaling in and out the nose when you're ready. As I breathe and I fill myself with this breath of God, I notice how full I can be of God. As I empty, I release, I allow and make room for more God. Last round of deep breath. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take this energy of relaxation, this practice of inhale and exhalation, into the feet. Maybe you raise the heels or wiggle the toes. Stop the movement. Exhale, relax the feet. Sending that energy up through the soles of the feet. You may feel a slight tingle underneath the foot. Sending that energy that is gathered beneath us up through the soles, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. What are we making room for? More peace, more clarity, more ease. As that energy cannot be stopped, we send it across the shins and the calves. Relax the shins and the calves. Energy is now flowing across the knees. If you choose, you can touch the knees to notice where you want to feel the sensation. Not gripping, just touching. And exhaling, releasing the touch and the energy to flow across the knees. Energy flows across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings. Inhale and exhale, we allow that energy to flow. Relax the thighs, the glutes, and the hamstrings. Go ahead and surrender the lower half of the body into the place where you are seated, where you are safe to do so. And now that energy gathered at the base of the spine is ready to travel upwards. That Kundalini wants to rise. It wants to animate every cell. As we breathe in, we allow more breath into the body. And as we exhale through the nostrils, we feel more energy available to flow. Breathing in, exhale, and allow. In, exhale, and allow. Breathing in as the energy rises. Exhale and allow. The energy flows in and up. Exhale and allow. And up. And up. And up. And now out the crown of the head. Imagine that this energy is gathered above you and gathered above us all, connecting us to the flow, the stream of well-being, that powerful force that is God, that wants to move in through and as our lives. We make room for it now to flow back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, across the shoulders, down the arms, and out the fingertips. Go ahead and scan the body. Do you need to receive more? Turn the palms up or turn the palms down to ground. But notice if you're holding tension anywhere in the body. Send God there. Send love there. Open to receive. As we prepare for our silent time, if the mind wanders, it is okay. We are grateful for a mind that thinks, and we are grateful for the ability to choose what our mind thinks. Once you notice and become aware that the mind is wandering, bring it back to our affirmative thought. I make room for God. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey of noticing, of breathing, of allowing. I make room for God. You make room for God. Now. Ah, yes, with our eyelids closed, we continue to make room for God. We feel God alive within us, and no one can tell us what this feeling is, and no one can take it away from us. With our eyelids still closed, we bring back the power and the flow and the rush of the energy, to use it this week whenever we feel frenetic or unsettled or disconnected. With our eyelids still closed, we know that there is a power within us, available to us, and we continue to make room for it. If the palms are turned up, turn them down, and let's inhale, drawing the shoulders up by the ears. Exhaling, releasing the shoulders back and down. Inhale, elongating the spine, drawing the breath up. Shoulder blades draw back as we exhale, release it all down. Inhale up. Exhale, releasing the shoulder blades back and down. That felt so good. Let's do it one more time. Inhale up. Exhale, releasing the shoulders back and down. As we center, we bring the palms together at heart center, touching the thumbs into the sternum. Nice and easy bow the chin towards the fingertips. Pausing to notice that opening at the base of the neck and all the way down the spine. In gratitude, we are thankful for the breath and for this time together, where we've made room for God. As we gently allow the eyelids to open, we maintain the inner peace. Inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze, keeping it soft. Exhale, release the breath. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
Well, we are, of course, in our new month of October with our series, Making Room for God. I'm looking forward to sharing with you today as we move through the steps, move through the process, right? As we learned last week, it's a quiet clearing, a quiet listening, and a quiet planning. So today we're going to look at the clearing aspect. But of course, before we do that, we are going to hear from Soul 21. And I will be with you on the other side with today's sermon title, The Potter and the Clay. I'll see you on the other side.
Can you hear the knocking?
Can you hear the knocking?
Knocking at your door.
Knocking at your door.
Can you hear life calling?
You hear life calling.
Calling you to more.
Calling you to more.
Open the door to life.
Open the door to
Don't
life.
you be afraid.
Don't you be afraid.
This is how your dreams come true.
This is how your dreams come
How your life will change.
How your life will change.
Welcome them in.
Welcome them in.
Welcome them in.
Welcome them in.
They are angels.
They are angels
Sent from beyond.
sent from beyond.
All of life
All of life
is a movement.
is a movement toward our wholeness.
All of life
All of life
is a movement
is a movement toward our You hear the knocking.
Don't run away.
Don't you run away.
Can you hear life calling?
You hear like calling.
The call of a new day.
All of a new day.
Open the door to life.
Open the door.
Don't be afraid, no, no, no.
Be afraid.
This is how your dreams come true.
How your dreams.
How your life will change.
Life will change.
Welcome to me.
Welcome to me.
Welcome to me. They are in the air. God's angels. All of life is a movement. All of life is a movement. All of life is a movement. All of life. So when you know this truth and you live this truth, then you can sing welcome to me. Oh, you can welcome to me. They are in the air. God's angels in from behind. Oh, now I am living abundantly. Living in complete prosperity. Now I am free to be all me. I'm living in the flow of life. After I've opened the door and welcomed them in now, I am living abundantly, living in complete prosperity. Every area of my life, now I am free to be all me. In the flow of life. Yeah, yeah. Now I am free. Oh, now I am free. In the flow of life. Now I am living. Yes. Now I am living. Now I am. I thought I was living before, but now I am living. In the flow of life. Now I am living. Yes. 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 Now, 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 now. In the flow of life. All of life is a movement. That setback, that closed door, that disappointment, what you may not realize now, but you will realize later as you look back, that was the very thing that moved you to the thing that you really wanted. That's why we sing all of life is a movement. All of life is a movement. Is a movement. The principle of rhythm teaches us that life never stops moving. Life is always flowing. There are times in our life where we feel stuck. There are times in our life where we feel like our back is against the wall. There are times in our life where it seems like this thing is fixed, but that is not the truth of life. The truth of life, that life is moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's a movement. All of life is a movement. All of life is a movement. Picture in your mind that problem moving. Picture in your mind that challenge moving. Picture in your mind that difficulty moving. Picture in your mind that dis-ease moving. Moving, moving, moving. Moving, moving, moving. Moving, moving, moving. Moving, 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 moving. All of life is a movement toward our wholeness. It's moving. Toward our wholeness. All of life is a movement toward our wholeness. All of life. All of life is a movement toward our wholeness. So it is.
That felt good to me, and it looks like it felt good to all of you. It's a reminder that we all need. It's an affirmation that really supports us wherever we are in our lives. Taken and inspired by the Tao Te Ching. I don't think Lao Tzu ever thought its words would become a gospel song. But in the Tao Te Ching, the Jonathan Starr translation, to the sage, all of life is a movement toward perfection. And the root of that word perfection is better translated as wholeness. Well, hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I know that it is good right here and now. So I want to dig in because I'm excited about this message. I was telling PY this morning, I'm ready to preach this thing. And I trust that it meets you right where you are. So we are in our series, Making Room for God. And we started last week with the sermon, The Beginning is the Ending. And really what we were dealing with and talking about is understanding essentially why we want to make room for God and what it means, what's the purpose. And so we understand that building a mental foundation is just like the foundation of a building. I said in the sermon last week, many of us have a vision that would be like an Empire State Building sized vision, but our foundation doesn't reflect that. The foundation for the Empire State Building is 55 feet and 8 inches in the ground. The foundation for most homes only requires it to be a few feet. And so we understand, using that metaphor, we understand that actually we need to develop the foundation that supports us in where we want to be in the end. So that's why the beginning is the ending. The beginning is going to determine, in this case of a building, it's going to determine the strength of the building and the stamina of the building and the longevity of the building. And we did an exercise. We did an exercise that helped us to uncover those limiting thoughts and beliefs that may be standing in the way of our greatest desire, that may be standing in the way of our biggest dream, that may be standing in the way of the life that we want. And of course, as I said last week, it is here so that it can be let go of, so it can be healed, right? Not to shame or blame us. And so we're going to start the process now of releasing and replacing those things. So as we move through making room for God, as I've already shared, there's a 3-step process that we're going to move through. There's a clearing, a listening, and a planning that's required. And I would put a word in front of each of those and say it's a quiet clearing, a quiet listening, and a quiet planning, right? Because we are in the season of fall, and we are now in the first of the internal seasons. This is about you and your consciousness, right? This is not about other people, right? And this is not about being externally focused or demonstrative about what you're doing, right? But it's something that we do quietly, inwardly, right? That only you can see or touch. So now that we have a clear understanding of why we must make room for God, today we're going to focus on this first step of quiet clearing. Now, traditionally, I think we're taught that making room for God or clearing out a space for God is sort of like an old familiar hymn. I'm sure you know the hymn, "Have thine own way. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou art the potter. I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will. while I am waiting, yielded and still. And of course, this idea, thou art the potter, I am the clay. This is a very familiar and deeply ingrained image, a spiritual image for so many of us. And it also articulates a common understanding of our relationship to and with God, right? God is the potter. God is the mastermind. God is the manipulator. And we are the powerless and the manipulated. Ooh, did y'all hear that? Because you see, this familiar and deeply ingrained analogy or image is actually deeply incorrect. The truth is, you are the potter and you are the clay. Take a breath. Release. Can you affirm that now? This may be completely unfamiliar to you, and it's okay. I am the potter and I am the clay. I am the potter and I am the clay. One more time, just so we can get used to it. I am the potter and I am the clay. Now, this radically new understanding, if we do not have this and hold this understanding, then the clearing step actually won't be beneficial. Because in the clearing phase, what you'll be doing, you'll still be waiting, yielded and still for something or someone or some being outside of you to act on your behalf and have its way. This also reflects then a misunderstanding of surrender. It reflects a passivity. It reflects a powerlessness. It reflects a lack of agency in one's life. But surrender, as I so often defined it, is extraordinary trust. And trust is not passive. Trust is not yielded and still. We trust the pilot of an airplane, and that is demonstrated when we buy a ticket, go to the airport, check our bags, and board the flight. It's active, it's not passive. And as I said earlier, we could refer to this step as quiet clearing. Extraordinary trust or surrender is not passive. Yes, extraordinary trust or surrender is the opposite of fear, doubt, and worry. But the activity of trust then reflects the affirmation that we used last week. I release all thoughts of fear, doubt, and worry, and I now replace them with thoughts of love, calm confidence, and joyful expectation. So this is what extraordinary trust looks like, right? It's not yielded and still, oh, I'm just on the potter's wheel, do what you want to me, God, right? But there's a calm confidence and joyful expectation about what will happen. Now, let's go back to the analogy of the plane for a second. You see, everyone who boards a plane is not necessarily practicing extraordinary trust. Everyone who boards a plane is not practicing calm confidence and joyful expectation, right? Some people go through the process of getting on the plane because it's the only way they can get to where they need to go, right? You have other people who actually refuse to board planes. I believe the story of Aretha Franklin, right? She drove everywhere all over the country, right? Aretha Franklin very, very rarely got on planes and pretty much refused to get on planes if it was possible to do it any other way. So we recognize that everybody isn't acting in that level of trust. And even those that are sitting on the plane are not actually operating from this place of extraordinary trust. So we understand then that clearing requires us to understand that we are the potter and the clay. And this means that we are not waiting on some God to show up and rescue us. We must create the conditions that allow for a greater flow of activity of God life, which is always flowing, always available, and is no respecter of persons. You are the potter, and you are the clay. Can we affirm that again together? I am the potter, and I am the clay. Once again, I am the potter, and I am the clay. And so understanding this truth that we are both the potter and the clay, what is required of us as we think about the quiet clearing? And so I went to a text that is one of my favorite texts and a text that I personally come back to every year in October, the 30-Day Mental Diet by Willis Kinnear. And in the diet, Kinnear writes this, and I feel like for me, this really summarizes what the clearing step is really all about. He writes this: the stepping stones to the discovery of the greater you are to be found in your increased awareness of the nature of God life, your relationship to it, and obligation to express it, the removal of any and all limiting concepts or patterns of thought which are preventing its fuller flow through you. As you discover what you really are, you open the door to a greater experience of all the good that life has to offer. So let's break this down, because he gives us four distinct things that this is what quiet clearing has to always include. 1, increased awareness of the nature of God life. And I love that. It's God-life, because God is life and life is God. I was talking to the Multi-Manifestor group. We had our coaching group session on Thursday, and we were dealing with this false, fake, deep idea of life be lifing. And some people I've seen will say life be lifing, but God be Godded. That's a belief in separation. God is life. And so we can't speak of life anyway than in the affirmative, than in the constructive, and in the beneficial. So I love that Willis Kinnear brings God and life together by saying God life, God-life. So 1, we must increase our awareness of the nature of God life. The second piece, he said, increase awareness of your relationship to God life. 3rd, increase awareness of your obligation to express God life. And then the 4th piece, removal of any and all limiting concepts or patterns of thought which are preventing the fuller flow of God life through you. Now, one of the other things I love is, out of these 4 steps in the process of clearing, the first 3 are all about your God concept. The first 3 are all about who and what God is. What do you think God is? What do you know God to be? What do you believe God to be? What is your relationship to this thing you call God? What do you call God? And further, what is your obligation to express this thing that you call God? Because knowingly or unknowingly, you are expressing God life, and you're really expressing your concept of God. Where your concept of God is, there your life will follow. So we, as the potters and the clay, are the molders of thought. We are the molders of our beliefs. We are the builders of our consciousness. We are the artists and artisans. And in the process of quiet clearing, we must revisit our God concept. As I just said, who and what is God? What is my relationship to this thing I call God? What is my obligation to it? And so first we can start with what God is not. Sometimes that's easier, right? God is not a person or a singular being. God is not God's name. God is all. God is the all in all. God is the all that is. God is energy, right? God is substance. God is the thing that becomes. God is, as I love to say, is the great becomer and the great responder and the great becomer. God is not a judge. God is not separate from us. God does not forgive. Why? Because as A Course in Miracles teaches, God does not forgive because God doesn't condemn. And then as we talk about what God is not, we have to affirm now what God is. God is life itself. Again, God life. God is life. Life is God. So forgive yourself and set yourself free if you were out here talking about life be lifing, because you were, in effect, blaspheming God, but really, in truth, just demonstrating what your perception of God is, which means that you believe that knowingly or unknowingly, subconsciously, by affirming that, you're saying that, you know, sometimes God is out here just doing foolish things and causing havoc in my life, AKA life be lifing. And if you make it, you know, you add the but God be God, and well, now you've created this separation, that God and life are separate. God is outside of life, right? Which means that God would be outside of you. God is the activity of life. God is unity, harmony, and the order back of and behind all things. God is love. God is omnipresence, meaning it is everywhere at all times, constantly encountered. God is omniscience. Not that God is wise, God is knowledge itself. God is wisdom itself, right? God is the eternal wisdom library, if you will. God is omnipotence. God is not powerful as a singular powerful being. God is power itself. Right? A light in and of itself is powerful when it's plugged in and turned on. But electricity is the power, right? And so God is all of that, everything and in between. God is unconditioned and unconditional. This is when I go back to and I said God is not a respecter of persons. God is unconditioned, one meaning that God doesn't change based on anything we do or say, right? Like we can't make God be different, right? By acting better or nicer or more loving or following some rules and regulations. And we also don't change God when we mess up, right? Or make mistakes or make missteps or falsely think something about ourselves that just isn't true. God is unconditioned, right? But God is also unconditional, meaning that it flows just like water is unconditional. It flows to any and everyone, right? It doesn't matter who you are. The circumstances of your birth do not matter. Where you live, your age, your height, your gender, your sexuality, right? Your favorite foods. None of these things matter, right? God will still flow to you easily and effortlessly. If you made 10,000 mistakes before, it will still flow to you if you change your pattern of belief, right? None of those things matter, and that's important. That's what we mean when we say it's no respecter of persons. It is available to all, with all, at all times. So let's go back to this list for a second. Increased awareness of the nature of God life. Increased awareness of your relationship to God life. Increased awareness of your obligation to express God life. And removal of any and all limiting concepts or patterns of thought which are preventing the fuller flow of God life through you. Did y'all hear that word? I'm sure some of y'all heard it when I read it the first time, and you're like, obligation? Obligation? Wait a minute, that sounds like religion. That sounds like rules and regulations. That sounds like the thing that I'm not trying to be a part of. That's why I'm on this new thought path. That's why I'm on this metaphysical path. Ain't nobody got time for obligations, right? That's not part of my spiritual worldview. Well, let's understand what this is really about. In truth, in life, we have one obligation, and that is simply to be an expression of God life. And the thing about it, the first three start to take care of that. When you understand the nature of God life and or the first two rather, the nature of God life and your relationship to God life, that is going to inform and really allow your expression of God life. So the obligation is your releasing of the valve. Right? I used the metaphor of the pipe and water last week, and we'll kind of just continue with that. So you know that you can, just turn the faucet a little bit, and you get a little bit of water, you get a little trickle, right? And so you can hold a bottle there and eventually fill it up, right? But it's going to take a while because it's not a lot of water coming, right? But we know that we can turn the faucet to increase the flow and fill that bottle much faster, right? And in fact, faster than we want to, right? Depending, and that's why we have the opportunity to regulate the flow. And so our understanding, as we increase our awareness of the nature of God life, and then increase our awareness to of our relationship to God life, what we're really doing is increasing the flow. And what we do have an obligation to do is to increase that flow, right, we have the obligation to, as we understand more and more, as we increase our awareness more and more of who and what we are, that thing must express in, through, and as us. And it's really automatic, right? So even the word obligation, it sounds like there's something we have to consciously do. But where your understanding of God is, where your relationship with God life is, there your expression will be. I think this is also important, an idea to understand. And Kinnear, he writes about this later in the 30-Day Mental Diet under the heading, Life Owes You Nothing. And I think this is important in this context because when we read, thou art the potter, or affirm, thou art the potter and I am the clay. Now, that's true at a certain level. But here's the thing. God as the potter, that happened before you got here, right? You're an idea in the mind of God. It conceived you, it created you, and brought you into being, right? And so that part has been completely taken care of. And now the opportunity, it's all in our hands. In this time-space reality, in this physical experience that we call life here on planet Earth, we are the potter and the clay, right? We are the visionary and we become the vision. Right? And so it's very important to understand that, yes, we have this obligation. The clay, when you think about it in the old way of thinking, that the metaphor of the potter and the clay has no responsibilities. The clay has no obligations. The clay just sits there on the potter's wheel, and whatever happens, happens. But the potter has a vision. The potter has studied their craft. The potter has developed a discipline in their craft. The potter is also unfazed by mistakes or missteps because they know it's part of the process. The potter sometimes has to start over. Have you ever seen that, a potter on a potter's wheel, and they get that thing spinning and it's going good and they're forming it and it looks good, and then all of a sudden something happens and then all the clay just kind of folds, right? And they start over. It also reminds me of the idea of happy accidents. Right, that as you're creating, sometimes you started with a certain vision or intention, but then it kind of shaped itself into something else, and you're like, oh wait, I like that. And you would have never gotten there if you hadn't started in the process of creating. The potter also knows that something greater is moving through them. The potter lives in and practices extraordinary trust with each and every creation. The true artist, the true artisan is operating from a place of love, calm confidence, and joyful expectation. So yes, you do have one obligation, and that is to express God, to express God life. The only way to express God life is to actually have agency and power in your life. And so this then is where the fourth item in the list comes in. Because when we first hear clearing and we think of quiet clearing, this is where our mind goes. Removal of any and all limiting concepts or patterns of thought which are preventing the fuller flow of God life through you. If you find yourself challenged by the idea that you have power in your life, that you are the potter and the clay, then this is a limiting thought pattern that must be released and replaced. Now, last week with the exercise that we did, I asked you to list those limiting thoughts and beliefs that came up during that exercise, because now we get to use them. Now we get to replace them. Now we get to release them. And so we can replace and release them by using I release statements. And so as you have that list and you're looking at the things that were revealed to you, those subconscious beliefs that are there, even as you were imagining your greatest desire, even as you were imagining your biggest dream, even as I was inviting you to see it, to feel it, to be in it, we recognize that some countering thoughts may have showed up. And so now we make use of those to create our release statements. Statements like, I release all the ways I believe I am powerless. I release all the ways I believe that life is hard. I release all the ways I think my biggest dream has to happen or can only happen. I release all the ways I dim my light and dial down what is possible for me. Another way to release, of course, is through forgiveness statements. I forgive myself and I set myself free for believing that life has to be hard. I forgive myself and set myself free for believing that I am not enough. I forgive myself and set myself free for thinking that I was only worthy of the bare minimum in relationships. Take a breath. I'm sorry if that got in your business. But we're releasing and replacing today. So be set free now from that limiting belief. And of course, I encourage you, come back to this stream, rewind, write these down, use them as inspiration for your own release statements. If you want to use the exact statements, you can. But of course, use it as it resonates for you. But always starting with, I release all the ways, ... or starting with, I forgive myself and set myself free, ... Now, after we remove, we must replace the empty space. This is also important because a lot of times folks are out here writing our release statements for 30 days, writing our forgiveness statements for 30 days, and you're living in that energy, right? The point of this is to let it go and then replace it. And so in the replacing, what we then place something new in it, I welcome and allow, ... I welcome and allow my power and fullest expression now. I welcome and allow my biggest dream to manifest with ease now. I welcome and allow ease and joy as my life now. I welcome and allow my life's vision to unfold beyond the limits of what I have seen or experienced before. I welcome and allow God's expression as me to illuminate every space I enter and wherever my name is spoken. Woo! That thing gets to me every time. I love how Source was supporting me in these ideas because I've never affirmed that before. I welcome and allow God's expression as me to illuminate every space I enter, right? We know how to talk about that, and people talk about that all the time. And, you know, your light, where you shine, you change in rooms, you change in the molecules. Yeah. And wherever my name is spoken, right? So I don't even have to be there. My energy is there as soon as my name is spoken. And I allow God's expression as me to illuminate every space. Now, the release or forgiveness statements, in truth, only need to be done once if you fully lean into it, if you fully allow yourself to, I'm letting this stuff go, because I'm in my clearing phase, and I'm moving on to listening next week. So I'm clearing this week. Rip up the paper, throw it away, and take it out of your home, right? We can, rip it up, throw it away, put it in the trash, and the trash can is still in the house. Take it out of your home as soon as possible. You can also burn the paper if you have a safe way to do that. And then for 30 days, write and speak aloud your welcome and allow statements. If you miss a day, you already know what I'm going to say. Start over to day one, right? Now, this is not about punishment. It's for a very simple reason. Our thought patterns, concepts, and conditioning are only and can only be built through repetition. Napoleon Hill is clear. He writes it specifically. The only known way to shift and change the thought patterns in our minds is through the repetition of affirmations, right? This is how we learned our multiplication tables, and we learned how to add, subtract, and divide. So many things. You have to come back in contact with it over and over again. And as you are the potter and you are the clay, as the potter, you're going to be intentional. See, reading these statements one day or a few days only makes a temporary impression on your mind. And will you feel better? Yes. But eventually you're going to just come right back to that old pattern because you haven't given the new pattern an opportunity to truly, truly take root. So again, for 30 days, write and speak aloud your new I welcome and allow statements. You are the potter, and you are the clay. The process of quiet clearing requires these simple steps. And the first three are all focused on your God consciousness, your God concept. Increase your awareness of the nature of God life. Increase your awareness of your relationship to God life. Increase your awareness of your obligation to express God life. And fourth, remove any and all limiting concepts or patterns of thought which are preventing the fuller flow of God life through you. How do you know they're preventing? Because they come up, just like when we did the exercise last week. It was a powerful exercise of visualization, but all of these other things start popping up. If they're popping up in your mind, then we know that those are the things that are preventing the fuller flow of God life through you. So you see, you must have a fuller understanding of who and what God is. Your thoughts and beliefs about God determine every aspect of your life because God is life and life is God. Your thoughts and beliefs about your relationship to God determine every aspect of your life, but because you are one with God. See, a thought about yourself in truth is a thought about God, which is then a thought about the power that enables everything to be, which is a thought about every aspect of life. Your thoughts and beliefs about your purpose and what you're here to do determine every aspect of your life. But here's the thing. You are here to simply be an expression of the all, to be an expression of life. You are here to be a beneficial presence to the world. You are here to be the light of the world. How that expresses, it will morph and change throughout your lifetime. And as you increase your awareness of the power and presence flowing through you, you will be amazed. You will be amazed at the infinite, powerful ways life expresses through you as you to uncover more gifts and more skills and more talents and more abilities. And so your obligation is really the obligation to live in extraordinary trust, to live in and become a greater and wider receptacle for God itself to flow in, through, and as you. And so then from this place of awareness, we can sing this hymn anew. Have your own way, life. Have your own way. I am the potter. I am the clay. No more will I be timid or still. Joyful and happy. Your will is my will. Of Course in Miracles teaches us that God's will is for our perfect happiness. And that's what we're after. That's the obligation. That's the expression of life. Have your own way, life. Have your own way. I am the potter. I am the clay. No more will I be timid or still, joyful and happy. Your will is my will. I invite you to affirm with me again. I am the potter, and I am the clay. I am the potter, and I am the clay. Once more, because it feels so, so good. I am the potter, and I am the clay. To this powerful, profound truth, we say amen, ashe, and so it is.
Ah, yes, yes. I am the potter and I am the clay. That might have shifted your whole matrix, and it should have. We are so grateful that we get to come together every week and change our understanding of God to make it more in alignment with the truth of what it is, to understand our divine nature, to understand that, right, the potter already created the clay. We're here. Now, what you do in your life, with your life, is up to you. Are you allowing it? Are you just getting a couple drops? Are you allowing the full stream? This week, please take this week to release and replace. And take this week to commit to the 30 days. Because it's important to replace these things. It's important to understand what we've been believing, what we've been affirming, what we've been thinking, and how our lives reflect it. Let's be honest about what we need to release and then do it. Do the release work. If you do it the way it is designed to do, you only need to do it once.
Yep.
And then you spend the rest of your time affirming and living this new truth. Affirming and living the new truth. Once the door is closed, once that paper is ripped, that garbage is out of the house, it no longer belongs to you. Now, unless you're going to go out there and go through the trash, metaphorically or symbolically, it ain't even yours anymore.
Right.
Spend your time allowing the new.
Yes, yes.
This series is so powerful. I can tell by the comments. We remember this week when something comes up, oh, I am the potter and I am the clay. Not to shame and blame, but to remember that I get to create something new here. We've created a life that we're comfortable with, but not the life that we are designed to live.
Absolutely.
Let's do that
Absolutely.
starting this week. Thank
Yes,
you, PG.
yes. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And of course, as we clear, that's what makes us receptive and available to listen, which is what we'll be talking about next week. I look forward to journeying deeper with you on this beautiful adventure. But as you can see here now on your screen, it is time for giving, and giving to CSC is very easy to do. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There is a $10 minimum for a text to give. Whichever means you choose, that's all good. What's most important is that you give what feels good, right? That you're giving from a place and awareness of all is well. That you're not giving your last. God is not asking for that, right? That you're not sacrificing anyway. God, as our understanding of God, life itself, is not asking for that, right? We give because it is a spiritual practice that supports us in physically acknowledging and physically engaging in the process of circulation, which is the giving and receiving, just like we inhale and exhale. We exhale so that we can inhale. And that which we exhale is beneficial to the plant, and that which they exhale is beneficial to us. And we create this beautiful cycle, right? And it's actually a cycle of ease, but also a beneficial cycle. And so our giving is tapping us into the metaphysical reality of that. And so that which we give, what's behind the giving, is then what we're going to receive. That's why we say give what feels good. That's why we say make sure there's no shame in your giving. Make sure there's no guilt in your giving. Make sure there's no sense of obligation in your giving. Make sure that you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul in your giving. Because unfortunately, those things are actually what you would be planting into the garden of your own mind, and then that's what you would be reaping as your life, right? So when we give what feels good, then we can affirm this truth with joy. All the money that I use,
All the money that I use
returns to me multiplied
returns to me multiplied
in a never-ending cycle
in a never-ending cycle
of increase, and enjoyment.
and enjoyment.
To that we say, amen,
Amen.
ashe,
Ashe.
and so it is.
So it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So we are so grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. As you know, we have the Momentum Prayer Call, which happens on Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look forward to connecting with many of you then. Again, put it in your calendar, lock the number in your phone so you have it. And if you're unable to be there live, which is all good, definitely make use of the recording. Use the callback number, call in. Again, even schedule a time. It's like, okay, I can't be there at 7 a.m., but I'm going to start my lunch hour with the prayer, right? And put that into your calendar. That's just about being intentional, because I know a lot of times we want to do a lot of things, but how we actually can support ourselves in actually doing them is small acts like that. Put it in your calendar. Give yourself a reminder so that you can do the things that you really want to do that you know will benefit you. If you're not able to make the call otherwise, all good. We will be back together again here next Sunday at 11 a.m. Next Sunday is God Talk Sunday, so plan to be there with us at 1 p.m. For the God Talk. No, that's not. Is that right? Is it 1 p.m. or 2 p.m.? 1 p.m. for the God Talk. And again, you have to be in the space to ask your questions. If questions come up related to the sermon series, anything that's showing up in your life, we are happy to support you in applying the principles to that experience. We trust and know that each and every one of you will have an amazing remainder of your day and an even better week. Shout out to the New York Liberty as they take the first step in bringing a championship back home to New York. If you're not a basketball fan, that probably doesn't mean much to you, but we love the ladies of the New York Liberty and are excited about what they're doing. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life, because that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to keep on doing. We love you. We appreciate you. Bye for now.
Bye for now.